Good evening and Assalamu alaikum everyone. And thank you. And firstly, I would just like to thank the audience for making time to be here tonight. And also I'd like to thank the Trust for giving us this opportunity to look at these manuscripts. And also I'd like to thank Kate. Is she still, she's still outside. But Kate's been an invaluable resource. She's been there to retrieve the manuscripts for us, to explain how the collection was formed. She's been an excellent person to have around and to kind of keep me grounded as well. You know, every now and then I'd have these flights of fancy, you know. I'd go, yes, I think I figured it out. I think we know where the Quran is from. And then, you know, she'd kind of remind me or give me a second opinion. But tonight what I'm going to do is I've got a set of slides to share with you. It's not a formal talk. It's an informal presentation of some of the research that I've done. And the first part, I will give you a bit of background on the collections itself. We'll look at a little bit about the Golden Quran, and then we'll move on to the poems. And I'll invite one of my students from last year, Huda, to explain how we translated the poems and then to present those translations to you. Now, to my right, I don't know if any of you have visited the collections before. It's called the Sir George Grey Special Collections. That's a picture of him there. So he's someone who lived in, you know, the 1800s, soldier, explorer, colonial governor, premier, scholar, governor of New Zealand twice, governor of South Australia, the premier of New Zealand as well. And also another very important figure, Henry Shaw. And it is from these two gentlemen that we have this collection of Arabic manuscripts, Turkish manuscripts, and some Persian manuscripts as well. Henry Shaw, also, you know, around during the 1800s, an accountant, someone who was fascinated with books. He sold books to Sir George Grey, so, you know, they knew each other. And then he came to be a curator of the Grey collection at the library. And interestingly, according to his biography, he lived at a place called Vermont Street in Ponsonby. Has anyone here been to Vermont Street?
Yes.
Yep. What's on Vermont Street? A mosque. So I just found it one of those fascinating coincidences, right? Here you have a very interesting collection of Arabic and, you know, Islamic manuscripts. And as it happens, he lived on Vermont Street, which is where one of the oldest mosques in New Zealand is located. So I just found it to be an extraordinary coincidence. I don't know of his exact address. I'm not quite sure how I would find out. But here's another thing that was interesting. Here's a quote from Henry Shaw about his love for books. Any man, or for our audience today, any man or woman, any person who is a real lover of books is bound to spend a lot of time amongst his collections. He cannot help himself. He is drawn to them as with a magnet and becomes, as it were, their slave. I think it's a fascinating quote. The man had a deep love for books. And not just books of a particular kind, but if you look at the collections, they are books from across the world. And I'll come back to this quote at the end of my presentation. Just as a matter of interest, I asked Kate, I said, Kate, what is the oldest manuscript that you have here in your special collections? And she said to me, we have a 9th century manuscript. 9th century manuscript. And it's a biblical manuscript, and you see a picture of it here, but it's not the book itself, which is from the 9th century. It is this little strip here in the middle, which is extraordinary, that this Bible was written, and then an older Bible from the 9th century was cut up into fine strips and placed in the middle of this Bible. And I found that fascinating. We have a Bible here from the 9th century. There are also other religious works here as well. There are some works from the Hindu tradition as well, which are at least 100 years old. But that's probably more for a specialist in a sort of Indian tradition. Okay, so you have the Sir George Grey Special Collections, and just to give you an idea of the number of items that are held, you've got 4,000 letters, probably closer to 5,000, 624 manuscripts, 29 medieval manuscripts, an extensive book collection, and as Kate told me, that was at the beginning. The collection is very much a living collection, so items are still being added. And our study tried to focus in on 28 items. A lot of them were in Arabic, some in Turkish, some in Farsi or Persian, donated by Gray and Shaw. And there were 2 items that caught my attention. The first one being the Golden Quran, and the second one being the collection of poems. Now you can imagine, we're working through these 28 items, and I noticed, there were about 3 or 4, maybe 5 Quranic manuscripts. And there was this one particular Quranic manuscript. You can sort of make out what the cover is like from the edge here. It's sort of torn, it looks very old. But when I opened it to the first page of the Quran, the first chapter of the Quran, I had to sit down. I had to take a deep breath. You have that saying, don't judge a book by its cover. It's sort of, this was that moment. You go to the mosque at Ponsonby Mosque or even at home, I have these old Qurans, and this looked like one of these old Qurans you'd find at a mosque or you find at home. But when I opened it, I just had to sit down, and even now when I look at it, it's something which draws you in. The more you look at it, the more you want to look at it. And there's an endless amount of detail. It just fascinated me. There were patterns, or there are patterns within patterns. And you can do this experiment right now. If you look at a particular page and you walk around the case, it's almost like a two-tone effect. There's a moment where you go, you can see all the gold stand out. And as you keep walking around, you'll see the blue stand out all of a sudden. And then there's another moment where you see the gold and all the sort of intricate patterns within the gold. And it just struck me as amazingly fascinating. And it kind of, and the question was, who would have a book like this? You just can't go to a bookshop and buy this thing. Even today, if you went to the bookshop to look at a Quran, buy Quran, you just wouldn't be able to buy something like this. And my initial thoughts were, this is a work of art, an incredible, delicate work of art. This is the work of specialists. A number of specialists would have been working on this text to create this. And would have been for a person who would have been incredibly wealthy to be able to pay these artists to create this work. So that was our initial hypothesis. And here's a close-up of, there's a moment where, depending on which angle you look at it, the light, the gold kind of jumps out at you. So according to Shaw, this manuscript is dated to about 1817 and possibly from India. And the question was, how did he come to date it this way? And apparently, he would look at catalogs, compare items that were similar, and then he would give it a date based on his knowledge of the catalogs available to him. So according to his dating, the Quran, this particular manuscript is at least 200 years old. And I thought, well, let us try and repeat this experiment. Let's look at what's available today and see if what we know today, on the basis of what we know today, if we can maybe kind of improve on his dating or confirm his dating. And so I went to my good friend, Mr. Google, and I looked up Qurans which were 200 years old, looked up Qurans or pictures of Qurans that were 200 years old. And I came across this particular picture here. And when I first saw it, I thought, oh, isn't that the picture of the Quran that we have? And then I looked at it close and I go, no, it's slightly different. It's similar. It's got that blue-gold combination. It's got those outside patterns, but it's a little bit more elaborate. And this Quran was sold a number of years ago through auction. And according to the auctioneers, the Quran was from India, and it was connected to the Mughal emperors of India. And here is a comparison of the two different manuscripts. This is the one that we have here, and this is the one from the Mughal emperors. It has similarities, but as Kate reminded me, this is a little bit more elaborate. So this is my working hypothesis, that it's possible that the text we have today is connected to the Mughal emperors of India. And this particular manuscript that was sold in India, or sold via this auction site, was from the last Mughal emperor of India, Bahadur Shah Zafar. And if you accept that dating, you can almost push out the manuscript to maybe 200 to 300 years old. So this particular person, the last emperor of India, he is said to have given this manuscript as a gift to his friend. He is the descendant of Aurangzeb, another famous Mughal emperor, and Aurangzeb being the son of Shah Jahan, the builder of the Taj Mahal. Now, being Indian, there's a part of me that really, really wishes that the manuscript that we have today is linked to the Mughal emperors. And there's a part of me that really, really wishes it's true. But there's another part of me who's, who says, well, okay, possibly it's linked, but we're not 100% sure. It's a possible link. Oh yeah, and here are some pictures. There's Shah Jahan and his wife Mumtaz, who apparently on her deathbed said to him, create something that will celebrate our love. And he built the Taj Mahal. My wife isn't here tonight, so if she made that request to me, I'm not sure what I would do. There's Aurangzeb, and there's the last Mughal emperor of India, Bahadur Shah Zafar. Has anyone here been to the Taj Mahal?
Yes.
Yep. Yes? Now I read an article where this particular guide, a tour guide at the Taj Mahal, said, whenever I feel sad, I go and look at the Taj Mahal and my sadness disappears. Did you have that experience?
Not yet.
Not really. Okay, I haven't been to the Taj Mahal, so I can't say. But I had that experience when I was looking at this Quran. Even when I look at it now, there's something about it which kind of draws you in. Okay, so the Golden Quran, Shaw has dated it to 1817, so it's about 200 years old. We've got a tentative hypothesis that it may be linked, that it is actually from India, linked to possibly the Mughal emperors of India, who, especially Aurangzeb, who dedicated, who set aside a portion of his palace to the production of Qurans. So we know a little bit, but there's still an element of mystery about where this manuscript is from. Just out of interest, there is another Quran in New Zealand, about 400 years old. It's located in Wellington, in the National Library of Wellington. And it's up there. Again, just out of interest, the oldest Quranic manuscripts that we have today, dated manuscripts, there's a picture of it here. It's written on leather. And all you notice is the leather and the Arabic script. It isn't decorated in an elaborate manner. It's a very simple text. And these texts were found in a mosque in Yemen. A part of the mosque collapsed, and they discovered these manuscripts. And they've put it through radiocarbon dating, and they date it to 646 CE, which is about 10 years, approximately 10 years after the death of the Prophet of Islam, Muhammad. So it's a very, very early manuscript. So the first item that really caught our attention was the Golden Quran. The second item was a collection of poems. Now, just looking at the text, there's no gold, there's no fancy decoration. It's a very simple text. It's sort of deteriorating. There are watermarks on it. And if you look at it, and it's located there, it's very flimsy. It wasn't meant to be a collector's item. It wasn't made for a rich family. It wasn't written by or put together by artists. The working hypothesis is that these poems, as you will see, are poems about the Prophet, about Muhammad, that celebrate the Prophet. And it sort of works like a flip chart. So it's not like a book. These pages are meant to be flipped over. So you can imagine someone having written down these poems to be read out at a public event. Maybe something like what we have here today. As you would read it, you'd flip it over, read the next one, and then read the next one. There are about 50 pages in this particular item, and all of them are poems. Each page has poems about the Prophet. I think there may be about 30 poems in total. And we chose 5 poems to translate. Now, my Arabic isn't the greatest, and I had to ask a student of mine, Huda, to help us translate this. And I'm going to call Huda up here, and she'll talk about how she went about translating these poems. And then we'll give you the translations of these poems.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Hello. So first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Zain for inviting me today. I'm so pleased to be with you. And I'm going to talk first about how unique the Arabic language is and the difficulties I encountered when I was translating these poems, because it was not easy. So first of all, the Arabic is known for its expressiveness. It's quite unique, and it has rich vocabulary, grammar, sentence structure, punctuation, etc. So when Dr. Zain gave me the poems, I tried to understand the content first, and then try to translate it, because it wasn't easy to understand it, as some words are not really familiar to me. It's exactly like translating Shakespeare's work. Like, Shakespeare uses Old English. Yeah, it is English, but it's a bit hard. So I used Arabic dictionaries to try to understand it fully. And sometimes I use the thesaurus to pick the closest meaning to the Arabic word. But unfortunately, the first difficulty I encountered was that some words, actually lots of words, do not even exist in the English language. So that was a huge problem. So I tried to pick the most accurate meaning. And then what is really unique about the Arabic language is its grammar. So we've got parts of speech like the English language. So English has, this is an adjective, verb, adjective, etc. In Arabic, it's a bit different. It's a bit more complex. So, like in these poems, there is a word which was murtada. I will explain what murtada means, so bear with me, don't freak out. So murtada's part of speech is maf'ul bih. Maf'ul bih roughly means something or someone which is directly affected by a verb. And in this case, it means the one whom the act has been done to him by the doer. So murtada means the one who God made satisfied, not the satisfied one. So can you see the difference? So it was pretty hard to write this in the translation. That's why I wrote the satisfied one. And then I made this point clear to Dr. Zain, this difference. And yeah, and the funny thing about Arabic, yet really fascinating, is that a word can have more than one part of speech. Like if you split it into parts, it can have more than one part of speech. Like this word, for instance. This is the longest word in the Quran. فَأَسْقَيْنَاكُمُوهُ. If you see here, I color-coded it. So if you see here, it's split into 5 sections, and these are 5 parts of speech. And this one word is equivalent to 8 English words. See how hard it is? Yeah, and this was one of the biggest difficulties I encountered when I was translating the very last poem. It was the longest one. And it was so detailed, and I couldn't translate it literally. That's why I asked my mom to help me, so I owe you a lot. And then we decided to just write a commentary, just write the overview of the poem, and not translate it literally. Because if we were to translate it professionally and literally, it will not take less than 5 pages. And I'm pretty serious. So this will take not less than 5 pages. Yeah, and the last difficulty I found was the cultural limitations. So there was an Arab guy mentioned in the poems named Qais, and the poet just mentioned him and he didn't clarify who he is. And he was not supposed to, because all Arabs know who Qais is. But if you're not Arab, you will not understand this verse. You have to know the story of Qais first, and then you'll be able to understand the verse. So I prepared some fun facts about Arabic, just 4, and yeah, for non-Arabs or non-Muslims. So I hope you like them. So the first fun fact is, we write from right to left. We do not write backwards. Because whenever someone asks me to write his or her name in Arabic, they're like, why are you writing backwards? I'm like, I do not write backwards. I'm just writing from right to left. Only 4 languages are written from right to left, which are Arabic, Persian, Urdu, and Hebrew. The second fun fact is that the Arabic is recognized as the language of Dod. Dod is a very unique letter, and it's not found in any of the other languages. It's Dod, not Da, it's Da. So it's the language of Dod. The third one is, oh yeah, that as I said before, the Arabic has a vast collection of vocabulary. So the word lion has 17 different synonyms in Arabic. 17 different synonyms. And the last one is that an 80-year-old Western poet, sorry I can't remember his name at the moment, But when he was 80, he decided to learn Arabic just to taste the expressiveness. This is how we say it in Arabic, taste. The expressiveness of the Arabic language. So, yeah. So we might want to learn Arabic. Yep, and I'm done. And I can read the poems now, and Dr. Zain can read the translation.
Huda, did you want to stand by the mic?
Okay.
So we'll do the first.
My voice is not good.
Go for it.
Okay. So this is the first poem. أصابعنا خمس عن خمس يخبر وذاك في البشارة والعقد فانظروا فسبابة الصديق والفاروق أوسطوا وعثمان بنصر وخنصر حيدر وإبهام ختم المرسلين محمد فما ذاك إلا نبي مطهر شفيع رسول الله والبيت قبلتي ودين من الأديان أملى وأفخر.
Okay, so this is the first poem. Each of our 5 fingers tells a story of good news and a promise. So look, the index is Siddiq, Abu Bakr. The middle is Farooq, Umar. Uthman is the ring finger, and the pinky is Haidar, Ali the lion. The thumb is the seal of the messengers, Muhammad. He is nothing except a prophet, most pure, intercessor, messenger of God and our shelter, my Qibla, whose religion is most exalted and renowned. And just to give you a bit of a commentary, there are 4 names here, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali. And these are the people who would assume leadership of the early Muslim community after Muhammad passes away. So after Muhammad passes away, Abu Bakr would assume leadership, then Umar, then Uthman, then Ali. So the image here is you have the thumb, Muhammad, and after him you have these other 4 individuals. And you can imagine for the poet, right, who's writing, that you need all these fingers to come together to write a poem.
أنت الحبيب المصطفى مكمل أنت الأديب المرتضى مجمل أنت الخطيب المقتضى مؤمل.
You are the beloved, the one chosen and perfected. You are refined, the one contented and celebrated. You are the orator, our exemplar, in whom hope has resided. And I think that's the word, murtada. I picked the word contented. And it's an interesting concept. So the one whom God has made happy or fulfilled. And it's interesting when it's applied to Muhammad, because at the very beginning of his prophetic career, when he has this first religious experience, he panics. He is in fear. He is worried about his own mental state. And he goes home to his wife and says, something has happened. I think something bad may happen. And his wife says to him, you are a good man. God is good. God will not let anything bad happen to you. And so that's his initial state of mind, one of fear and doubt. But of course, towards the end of his prophetic career, he has set up that religion, he has the community, and he is someone who is genuinely contented.
عن غرامي ولوعتي لا يحركني الملام ذاك ديني وملتي ذاك لي غاية المرام محنتي فيه لذتي صلواتي للهوى حرام ما فتن حد كفتنتي قيس دوني بلا كلام.
This is my love. The disapproval of others bothers me not. This is my deen, faith, religion, way of life, the end to which I strive. Even my ordeal within it is an ecstasy, and it would be a sin to abandon this love. No one was more enamored by this religion than me. Even the love of Case cannot be compared to my love of this deen. Case, maybe I should have replaced it with the name Romeo. That's how you'd understand this character. So Case is a figure in Arabic folklore, and I think in Indian folklore as well. In Indian folklore, he's known as Majnu. So Case is a person who falls in love with a young lady, but her father refuses him when he asks for her hand in marriage. And he goes mad. He is in love with her to such a degree that his love kind of makes him mad. And it's interesting, in Urdu or in Hindi, he is known as Majnu, but the Arabic word Majnoon means mad. So the word for love and madness, it's really, really close. Majnu, Majnoon.
يا كثير الدلال والدعج أنت سلطان على المهج كل بيت أنت ساكنه ليس محتاجا إلى سرج ومريض أنت زائره قد أتاه الله الفرج وبلاد أنت حاكمها زال ما فيها من عوج وعيون أنت ناظرها صارت كالجوهر البهج.
O you, Muhammad, without fault, in our hearts you rule. The abode in which you dwell needs no lamp. And when you visit, the sick receive God's help. The countries in which you reign are free from misrule, and any eye or any eyes into which you look turn into gems of delight. And your lighted face is our longing tonight. Just a little bit of commentary. In the Quran, Muhammad is described as a warner, a messenger, someone who invites to his particular message, but then he's also called a lamp spreading light. And this sort of picks up on that imagery.
This is the longest poem. نبي له من المرسلات الرضا نايا ولكنه سيف عن الحق ما نبه نبي كريم كنز فضل ولم يزل بمنهاجه حاز الفخار مهذبا أبا القلب الأحبة أشرف مرسل وأسفى الورى أما واكدمها وأظهر في التعجيز سحر بلاغة وبالنصر يوم الفتح أحزابهم سبا حليم عظيم الخلق والخلق والهجر بشير نذير صادق القول مجتبى بمولده قد شرفت مكة كما بتربيته قد شرف الله يثربا تباشيره الأفلاك يوم ظهوره وحفت به الأملاك شرقا ومغربا تفاخيره الأرض والسماء بأحمد فأهلا وسهلا بالحبيب ومرحبا هو المصطفى المبعوث للناس رحمة عليه سلام الله ما هب في الصلاة.
And this is a brief commentary. As Huda said, if she were to actually give us a translation, it would take up about 5 pages. So we thought we'd go with the commentary. So the poet provides a description of the Prophet's character, generous, patient, intelligent, humorous, honest, full of grace, an exemplar intelligence, honorable, most honorable among the messengers of God. The poet also talks about the Quran as being a miracle because of its eloquence, and also notes Muhammad's military victories. And then this is maybe a little bit more of a translation. Makkah, the city where he was born, was honored by his birth, and Medina, the place where he is buried, a city north of Makkah, was honored by his conduct. His birth was celebrated by the universe as he was sent as a mercy to mankind. And this idea of mercy is also deep within the tradition as well. Pretty much every chapter in the Quran begins with a statement that says, God is most merciful. There's a part of the Quran which says, or where God is quoted as saying, my mercy precedes my wrath. And what's interesting, the word for mercy is Rahman. And of course, Arabic being a deep language, you can split it up. So Rahman being made up of the word Raham, which means womb. So you have this idea of mercy linked to motherly love. And this particular poet, that's how he saw Muhammad, as someone who was a messenger of love. Okay, just to conclude, I want to come back to this particular quote from Henry Shaw. And the quote fascinated me because there's a similar quote from Rumi. I'm not sure if anyone's read Rumi. Famous Muslim mystic. There's a bit of debate about whether he's Iranian or Turkish, born in Iran, buried in Turkey. When I talk to my Turkish friends, they say, yeah, he's Turkish. When I talk to my Iranian friends, they go, no, he's Iranian. So Shaw was a lover of books, and he talks about, you become a slave almost. And Rumi says, I am the slave of the Quran as long as I have life. I am the dust on the path of Muhammad, the chosen one. It's fascinating. And I'd like to leave it there. And we're open for questions if you have any, or comments. Thank you.